Hey, everybody, and welcome to part two of Why Breweries Collaborate. The first part was so good, we didn't get through everything we wanted to. Here is part two. And in case you missed part one, I think you'd find value in going back and listening to the first part of our conversation. So let's welcome back our guests and give them a moment to refresh your memory on who they are. And William, you're to the right of me. You get to go first.
Hey, William Teasley with Khonso Brewing here in Atlanta, Georgia. I am a brewer, marketer, operation. I'm a little bit of everything since we're a brewery and planning. I'm even visiting real estate to get our, settle on where we're going to be in the future. I'm back.
Well, welcome back. Jessa, you're back both here at the panel and back from an awesome vacation. So great to see you.
Yeah. I'm Jessa Butler. I manage the tap room of Icicle Brewing Company in Little Leavenworth, Washington. We are I like to say we're a small brewery, but I think we're bigger than we think we are. So, that's me.
Great to have you again. And Julie, I get to see you in person in a few weeks, but I'm excited for the virtual opportunity too.
I know. I'm excited. I got on my travel short up the other day. I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. I got my stuff. Hi, I'm Julie Rhodes. I'm the owner of a consulting services company called Not Your Hobby Marketing Solutions. I do more than marketing. I just haven't changed my DBA. I do strategic business consulting. So, and I'm located in Broomfield, right outside of Denver in Colorado.
Well, excited to see you again very soon. Now, Josh, I don't know if we've actually seen each other since the first virtual session, despite you being essentially a neighbor.
Yeah, I don't think we have, but I'm Josh from Afterglow Brewing, Norfolk, Virginia, long ways away from Andrew. And I do all the brewing, run the business, and anything else, just like William. So.
Now, Josh, I want to pick your brain first. In part one, we talked a lot about partnering with nonprofits, but what strategies to give back have worked best for you? Like percentage of sales, giving them some sort of taproom presence, $1 per pint. Where have you seen success with regards to that?
So where we're only a year old, we've tried a couple different things, and mostly like what you kind of just said. So we've done the percentage of sales. With that, we've done it with like Old Dominion University, like we talked about a little bit in the first part. And that way, I personally like that way. It guarantees that we know what we can give back based off of like what we feel comfortable with as a company to the group that we're working with. As far as like Pink Boots, we did like $1 back per a beer we sold. Usually we do that like after cost of what it is to make it, and we do $1 per beer. We just felt that was like a good thing that we enrolled all of our employees on, and we just thought it was the right thing to do for that one. So we went a little more with that. And then I think just sometimes we'll trade like space for like an event. So like some of these markets and things like that, we collab with people, and or we just did one recently that was for a family that owned a local business. They had like a bunch of like the hula dancers and stuff, and it was so cool. And all the money went back to this family that was from Hawaii that their house had burned down, and their family could have really used financial help. And so for us, like at the time, we were like, okay, well, we'll give you the space to hold this event, and then we each like donated to like buy some raffle tickets, things like that. It was a great turnout for them. So that's just a couple different things we've tried and had really good luck with. I think there's a lot of different ways you can collab and make it work for both parties.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Jessa, what about you at Icicle?
Yeah, so we do, depending on the organization that we're working with, we'll often do $1 per pint. And then if it's a specific evening that we're trying to, highlight, there's a cool organization called the Wellness Place in our area, basically hosts cancer support. So cancer survivor support, cancer patient support, specifically in our like kind of 3-county area. And what we do on nights where we're highlighting people or organizations like that, we've brewed a beer for them. And then we're highlighting that. We'll do two things. We'll do 25% of sales for that night. And then we'll also, we use Arrived, and Arrived has a function where we can turn on a donation piece. And so that donation piece is really cool, that we can then go in and we can say, oh yeah, for this, during the life of this beer, this is who we're donating to. And then people can kind of connect personally with that. And so that's an additional piece that people can utilize. So that's been really helpful for us. So we do kind of a specific night, and then we do of 25% of sales, and then we do $1 per pint through the life of the beer, and then a quick, or like a quick screen that pops up that's like, hey, do you want to donate anything else, you personally as the customer, which connects people even further to whatever collaboration that we've been doing.
And Jessa, when you collaborate with these nonprofits and you're donating back, how are you incorporating that into your marketing, either pre-event or post-event? How are you sharing the success, letting the community know what you're doing? I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when we do it, we do a lot of lead up on social media. We have Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. We also have I find that people connect a lot better with handwritten things. So like chalkboard that we do, people connect a lot better to that than they do with like a printed sign or like a QR code, anything.
That's so interesting, and a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, right. So they pay attention a little bit better to that. So we do some of that lead up. And we do some, social media stuff. We don't often do a whole lot of follow up for people. Just that we've, in the past, we haven't done a whole lot of follow up. So we don't do much post event, but lead up to the event, just kind of trying to connect with people in various different ways. So
cool. Well, Josh, how about you? How are you incorporating this into your marketing?
I think, when you partner with the right people or a cause that people really like or, feel strongly associated with, I think that gets people in the door. And then again, like it works for both. Another thing I was going to add that I didn't think about first, we do the roundup option as well. Cause that's a nice thing. I know, we use Toast currently. We used to use Arrive. But I know both of them have a roundup option, and that's nice too, because, people I think are more inclined to like, oh, I'll give a couple cents back, and then over time that'll go up. And we've thought about we've done like a whole week or 2 weeks. We've even done a whole month for like a cause. We've even thought about maybe we'll do that every month, or every couple months we'll pick a charity, and then this is their quarter or that's their quarter, like different things to do just to help out around the community and use our platform.
Awesome. Thanks. William, have you collabed with a nonprofit yet?
Yes. So when we started, well, for us, when we started, we used to, when we were home brewing, we just do beer parties. So we'd be a auction item. So people could go around and put their bids on things. So we've always volunteered, and all of the team has a history of volunteering throughout the community. So we've often volunteered our services. Once we got to where we were doing this, our professional transition, we still supported nonprofits in a very similar way, of where we would donate what we could to their efforts, whether that was us, going out and doing a home brew demonstration and tasting at someone's home. But we've worked with a nonprofit here in Atlanta a couple of times, doing a collab beer with Lost Druid, and a percentage, I think we did $1 per pint for those sales. One was a part of Black is Beautiful, where we donated like $7,500 for that period of time. How we're sort of approaching it as we move to open is one of the team, Corby, is the head of a homeless serving nonprofit here in Atlanta. And we are sort of looking at our giving more strategically around what areas do we feel we can support in a year. And and try to sort of have as much impact as we can have in a specific area. So, whether it's sustainability and being able to sort of track that. We're also doing some B Corp type stuff. So we have to get in this habit of tracking what we do, whether it's volunteer, financial or other support, but being very targeted about it. So we're not, because there will be someone that walks in saying like, hey, we have this event and we want you to donate X, or there's this every year we do a homebrew demonstration at a soil festival here in Atlanta, where one of our sustainability organizations gives free dirt to folks. So we're active, and we develop those partnerships. Basically, those are things we're going to carry on through, but we look at it all.
No, thanks, William. Now, Julie, I love your perspective on this because you interact with so many breweries and brands across the country. Do you have any best practices or like marketing recommendations for how to successfully promote a partnership with a nonprofit?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a ton. We have a limited amount of time, but I'll try to like boil it down to. I mean, the biggest thing I can think of is just make sure you start like well in advance, because a lot of your marketing opportunities will come before you actually do the thing, like right in the moment. Obviously, you want to grab moments like while you're in the middle of it, whether it's a brew day or a charity event or fundraiser, but whatever it might be. Just make sure that you have kind of a timeline mapped out on when you can actually snag, some like pivotal moments. I would definitely say social media is obviously a great way to do it. There's a new feature on Instagram to add somebody as a collaborator. I don't know if anybody's tried this or not. I've done this with a couple of companies. So whether it's nonprofit or for-profit, whoever you're collaborating with, like another brewery or whoever, ask their permission. First of all, don't add them as a collaborator without their consent. Please get their consent first. But it's a great way to add somebody kind of as like a partner, and it looks like a partner promotion and it feels like one. And then you get their following and their eyeballs on it. Obviously, email campaigns. Please do email campaigns. Maybe do like a landing page on your website. Like Jessa mentioned, or I think it might have been Jessa and Josh mentioned, and William, I know you do QR codes as well. So like a QR code that goes to a landing page that kind of describes what you're doing. And then finally, just, if it ventures outside of beer or an organization, like last time we talked about like other goods and services, like the whole shoe collaboration thing, like see how you can sell more stuff together. You know what I mean? Can you sell the shoes in your tap room instead of just at the skate shop? I don't know if the skate shop can sell alcohol. That's like a whole different can of worms, but you could ask.
Under the tongue, perhaps.
No, I mean, there are, sometimes you can get like a temporary permit or something for like a little while, depending on where you're located. So you'd have to, like scoot around and see what the parameters are, but definitely getting the word out early. And then I would encourage post-campaign marketing as a follow-up. So like, this is what we did. These are the results. This is why you should come out and participate next time or buy something more next time, so on and so forth. So that people can kind of see, first of all, the results of your actions, but second of all, that holds you accountable for what you said you were going to do in the first place, which is really important for your brand. So,
yeah, thanks for sharing all that advice, Julie. Now, I have an unplanned question for you all today. We're talking about collabing with nonprofits. We've talked about collabing with other breweries. Does your brewery or business model lean more towards one or the other, or do you have more success when you collab with nonprofits versus other breweries to see the results you want to see? I'd love to kind of hear what each of your thoughts are on who to collab with.
Well, I think they serve different purposes. So, collaborating with another brewery is super cool because you're creating a partnership within the industry. Collaborating with a nonprofit, on the other hand, is just such a different space, and you're really connecting with the community in that regard. And so you're giving people a chance to interact with another, like you're kind of showcasing your relationship with kind of your I don't know, your like what you're trying to do. So I think they serve very different purposes. So I think success is defined in very different purposes in that way as well. So for us, I think we at Icicle, we collaborate a little bit more with nonprofits. And we've found we've gotten a lot of good community interaction with that, either introducing people to a new organization or a different kind of way that they can connect with that philanthropic piece of things that are happening.
I love that.
Jessa, have you done stuff with your fish hatchery? There, I know
we have, yeah. So we actually,
I didn't mean to interject. I just know, like, I've been there, and that's like a big part of the community. And I just figured I would ask. Like, that's probably a cool story.
Yeah. So we have a beer coming out in a couple weeks from today, actually 2 weeks from today. And it is salmon safe. It's a mostly salmon safe beer. It's really hard to get all salmon safe ingredients, but it's a mostly salmon safe beer. And we're actually partnering with Cascade Fisheries with that one. And so we're doing a fish taco night with a local restaurant as well. So they're going to come in and do kind of like a pop-up. And so that's going to be even more of a thing. But yes, we have done that. And we sometimes do collaborations in the tap room where we give people kind of space to like be. So it's not necessarily beer related, but it is collaboration related. Just like, hey, come hang out and chat with the people that make the fish hatchery run. And because fish in our area are super important to the entire ecosystem. So, but yes, we have, and it's been super great. So,
yeah, I think too, like, I think the beer industry has kind of shifted. Like, like I remember back when I was a beer nerd before I had my brewery and stuff, and I think it was like, oh, like which two breweries made a beer together, and I gotta have that one. And I believe the same thing like you guys are saying. It's more about like what event is going on at the brewery, or like what kind of like fundraiser is it, or collaboration in that aspect, and not so much like how everything else is. So yeah.
Well, for me, it's a little different because not being physically open, it's marketing. It is, how do I get this, just our logo in pictures somewhere else. That doesn't mean that's where we want to be in the future, but it signals to our market here in Atlanta and here in Georgia that, oh, wait, those guys were in Pittsburgh last week. Oh, those guys are going to Sacramento. What's going on with those guys? So it keeps us in the conversation about a lot of things going on. Or things going on in our community around what we're doing with beer. It's, we talked in the first part about, just the learning. So I was on a call just before this because of a collab I got going on with Jackrabbit Brewing up in Sacramento. So we're working through those things. We're working on the beer and things like that. And he's texting me as we're talking right now. But for us, prior to being open, we leveraged collaborations to sort of keep our name in the conversation about, beer in Georgia, pushing some envelopes around what styles we play around with and things like that. So slightly different approach, pure marketing. Julie knows.
Yeah,
So chat about it.
We've talked about collabs with breweries, non-breweries. For all of you, and just any in general observations, What are some of the challenges you faced during these collaborations? How did you overcome them? And feel free to give any examples that you can, revealing as much or as little feels appropriate.
I know, like when
Well,
we first opened, we like ended up like trying to do this mural on the outside. I know Andrew's seen our mural outside, and we did like a campaign on Instagram, and we were like, all right, we're gonna get some local artists to do this, and we're a startup, right? So we don't have a ton of money, so we're like, all right, this is like what we'll offer. And I guess the local artists were somewhat insulted, but we never said you had to be Pablo Picasso, man. Like we were hoping some ODU student that was in the art program, it'd be something they could put in their portfolio, and we were going to pay for the cost of all the materials plus give them extra money, you know. So yeah, so that was something cool we were trying to do, and it really backfired. So as far as people in the community, really like the artists, I would say they kept, you know, like coming at us about that and stuff, and we just, it was really negative, and we you know, battled for 2 or 3 weeks trying to be nice about it, but there were some people that came to our defense too. You know, I'd say it's pretty even, but the people that were actual artists, like, you know, we were just like, all right, well, if you don't want to do it, just move along, you know, like, sorry, like we can't give you, you know, because I'd heard the city probably pays people a lot more to do like the murals they're doing, but you know, as a startup, unfortunately, we could not, you know, and so that's just one, you know, collaboration we tried to do with a local artist, and you know, didn't go as planned. We did end up finding someone who was like willing to do that, and it looks great now. So,
Thanks for being willing to share that. Anybody have any other collab stories, William?
Well, for me, there have been times where we've done collabs and they're, and this goes from a marketing perspective, they're one-sided. So the entity is looking for me to bring people to them that they wouldn't normally reach, but not do any marketing on their side about the collab. So those have been the ones that have been more difficult, because I've actually had people look at me and go like, hey, where's your people? And I'm like, I haven't seen anything on your social media about it. It's only on mine. When the beer's posted, there's nothing that identifies it as a collab beer. So yeah.
Doesn't sound like a great partner in that situation.
Yeah, and isn't that necessarily, I think the expectations were that, oh, we do this thing and you're going to just, there's going to be 200 people who show up at the door. I'm like, that's not how it works, man. So those types of collabs have been more difficult, but I've also gotten better at spotting them as we go into, maybe doing it or maybe not. I can smell those out a little better now. The ones that'll be more one-sided, or the guys who are just kind of doing us a favor. So I'm like, I got more followers than you. How are you doing me a favor? We can double what we have if we work together and do this thing. That's, you see a big jump, especially in social media, when you have good, well-structured collaborations around a social issue or an event or things like that. Both get to cross-pollinate, so to speak, as well as sort of grow that. But if only one side's kind of rowing the boat, you just end up in a circle, going in circles.
No, I agree to that. It's great when both promote. One thing I love, I spend a lot of time listening to music on Spotify. You'll have that artist you like, and you see them do a collab song with someone else. The next thing you know, you're going down the rabbit hole of listening to all their music. I mean, it's so important to both put the work in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we move on, Andrew, I just want to pivot off of what William said, very briefly, and then we can, scoot forward. But make sure your values are aligned when you're doing this kind of stuff. That can be really telling when you get into the public eye, like what Josh was talking about, what William was talking about. Please make sure this is not like a performative kind of situation, that it is something that is meaningful to you, your brand, your team, you know, whoever it is, like vertically all the way down the line, right? You know, Jessa, I think you mentioned it earlier, like, I think that's what you were getting at about like making sure it represents like the values of the company and the brand and stuff like that. It makes sense like community wise, but also from the flip side of that, because I've done collaborative work in other spaces where I was the one chasing people down for the donations that they committed to. That's another issue, is that if you say you're going to commit to something, commit to something. Like, don't make it hard for the organizer to have to like do extra labor and chase you down to get your dollar per pint that you said that you were going to give back. So I see it from the, you know, like logistics too, as well. And trying to navigate that, it's hard.
There's nothing more frustrating when you hear about the breweries that participate in one of these awesome collaboration opportunities and don't donate to the cause. That's so frustrating and upsetting. Not a good look for beer.
Well, and I think that kind of goes back to, Julie, what you were saying earlier, that like communicating that you like, here's that follow-up, which I think is something that is, you know, that's a big piece that I think is often forgotten. I mean, we, like I shared earlier, we don't do a ton on the follow-up. And I think that's something that we definitely need to get better at doing for sure on our end.
Yeah, so right now we're talking a lot about setting expectations so we don't get let down or have some of these unfortunate situations happen, either from lessons that you all learned or potentially just thinking to the future. Do you have any thoughts on how we can better set these expectations? Like, William, let's say you're working with the brewery. Like, hey, you're going to post about it X number of times on social media. You're going to tag us on these posts. You're going to email your list letting them know we're collabing together, and you're actually going to tag me. Like, are you setting these guidelines out there going into things now, or is it something you consider to do in the future?
Yes, and having those initial conversations allow us to get beyond the beer, because, you know, in some organizations, one of their big things is, well, is it going to sell? And the answer is yes. But if we are not both pushing it forward, it doesn't, you know, it takes a little bit longer. It's sitting in your tank, you know, whatever that dynamic is. But setting, you know, being in a good place, setting up expectations of what both parties can do, and also writing it out. So I've already reached out to Josh, and you know, something's percolating probably in 2025.
If he gives you a hard time, let me know, and I'll stay on top of him.
Okay. I'm not having it's, you know, it's 2025. We're getting there. But you know what, my business partner Kevin, his family's right next door, and he's up there, and he was pumped. So he's like, "Oh yeah, definitely, I'm going to stop by and start the conversation to sort of get these things happening." But I'm also starting the conversation earlier. So it isn't like, hey, wait, in a month we got something, let's be apart, let's work together. It's, you know, let's start the conversation early. You know, I try to fill out my calendar so I know what's when. And that way, you know, as for us that brew, we have our schedule, our calendar. When's the tank free? When's this? And if you sort of begin to align your sort of collaboration opportunities around kind of how you're looking at your quarterly or brew schedule, you'll see it's like, oh, I have a day in here for a beer. And, you know, last year we worked with this organization, or this group has reached out and they want to come talk to us. We can fit it in that calendar better. So the and to that was, I'm looking at my calendar more to see when we can do it and when we can do it well. We just can't, you know, we could run around chasing collabs all over the place, but strategically we need to look at maybe one a quarter, maybe twice a year, and then get in the queue for the empty. I had someone tell me literally, I got one tank free. And I got it free for 2 weeks. So whenever whatever that 2 week period is, we got to get in the queue and get that done. But that gives us time to do all the other stuff.
No, Jessa, I'd love to turn to you on something, not necessarily expectations, but let's shift it more towards staying organized, because we can have all these grand ideas, but unless we have all ducks in order, it's going to get kind of messy. So, Jessa, for you, when you're doing a collab, let's say with like your local fishery, or even some massive brewery in another country, how are you staying organized and delegating all the parts of it, whether it's regard to brewing, marketing, who's going to be there day of? How do you handle all that organization?
So I think that for those that didn't join last time, our brewery was able to do a pretty huge collaboration with Hofbrau out of Munich. And we celebrated that with a huge party, and it was a big brew day. And for that one, we really had to be super organized and just have all of our ducks in a row. We used Asana for that, which is a task management software for just projects like this. So it doesn't have to be Asana. We haven't found the perfect tool yet, but Fenwick out of Creature Comforts gave me a really good tip. Like, don't wait for it to be perfect in order to utilize the tool. Start somewhere. So for us, Asana was a really good tool to be able to, it gave us accountability to see that, I know that our marketing guy I know that this is his responsibility, and I can check in like, hey, I have this question I have for you. So it assigns responsibility and it keeps people accountable. And then if I know that something needs to happen, I can assign someone like, hey, our marketing guy, his name is Julian. Hey, Jules, I need these 3 signs, or I need these 3 things from you headed into that. And so I can put it into Asana, and then he sees it and he knows that that's something that I need from him. So that was really helpful, just to be able to see kind of what am I depending on other people for, and how am I showing people that I am like accountable to the things that I'm responsible for. So that was really great. And you can schedule things out with task management software like that. So that's super helpful for bigger projects and smaller projects, honestly. So Asana or a system like it is just really helpful for that kind of thing. So
CBP uses Asana. I'm a big fan of it. Even the free version, I know brewers like free a lot of the time. It's really valuable. Although you mentioned like scheduling things in advance, I am always on the fence of upgrading to the next level. So probably someday.
It's a bit of it's a budgetary thing, but it is really helpful to be able to kind of schedule things out and have things pop up when they need to pop up, rather than just having everything like have to live here and be like, I need to check in on that thing. So that's really nice.
And Julie, I feel like you've given a talk on staying organized. If you haven't, I feel like you probably could. But what is your advice for all these breweries planning collabs, whether shoes or brews, whatever it may be, like staying organized?
Well, for one thing, I use Asana. I actually upgraded recently. If anybody wants to know the experience with that, about 6 months ago, it's only like $20 or $30 a month, honestly. So if it can save you time with like labor and like organizing your staff, I definitely think it's worth it, for the fact that, like, for one thing, it syncs with your calendar, which is like, then you have like your own like tasks that you can see. But then other people can view it either as like a board or a workflow, or and they have, because everybody's brains work differently, so maybe one view works better for them, and so on and so forth. Even if I didn't already use it, I would take advice from Fenwick pretty much any day of the week, any minute of the day, because I think he's amazing.
Amazing.
I'm going to say yes to it. But no, I like to treat collaboration work kind of the same way as like a product launch. So I want you to have a runway, right? And I've done this with clients before. So like, think about your activity day or the donation day or the fundraiser, whatever it might be, right? Collaboration day or beer release day, and then try to work yourself backwards from there. And then you can use a tool like Asana. Monday.com is like another one that it's okay. There's like co-schedule. Some people use Trello. That's another one. ClickUp, I think, is another. Anyways, there's like a whole bunch of them. I like Asana the best, but if you can kind of build SOPs, so to speak, like for your like launch runway for like building up to the actual event, then you can work in things like travel arrangement or having enough notice in advance to get like assets together and sharing them with the partner and making sure what the plan is for all the activities that are going to be surrounded around that activity. And then Jessa also doing the follow-up, like scheduling some stuff in Asana for post collaboration follow-up stuff. So yeah, it's kind of cool. And I don't want to scare anybody because none of us need like more tools in our lives or like more communication, but I make an exception for stuff like this because it improves productivity so much that it's worth it to like learn a new tool, kind of like when all of us learned how to use like Slack or WhatsApp or something similar. It's just worth it to kind of add that to the mix.
Thanks, Julie. Now, Josh, I'm curious, running a tap room, you're a little bit over a year. Like when you do a collab, how are you staying organized and how are you passing information to everyone who needs to, be in the privy of it?
So I typically, what we've done in the past is we'll get up with whoever we're collabing with. We're like, hey, let's come in and meet. If we're brewing here, like we'll meet here. So, we'll have like a set of hour time or whatever to, just meet up and talk about what we want to do, what our mission is, what we want to brew, or if it's an event, not even a beer, like talk about the event ideas for that, especially if it's like a fundraiser and we're expecting like a lot of people. There was one we did where it was for a guy that had ALS and he passed away a couple of years ago, and they wanted to do like a fundraiser for him to raise money for youth sports. He was like big in the community with coaching, kids in this area. And so at first they're like, it could be like 100 or 200. And then they're like, maybe 800, maybe 400. And we're like, oh, this is really hard to plan. And so it eventually got to the point where it was, we were 300 to 400 people probably were here at a time. And we were like, oh my God, this is crazy. And so that took a lot of planning. The one side of it, they were kind of like, no, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I'm like, I need to make sure we have enough staff, like enough beer, like, and we were super worried about it. So like, ever since that one thing, we have been over prepared, if anything, for most of our events. And, like on a brew day, we'll make sure everybody's on the same page of like, okay, like tomorrow we'll get in at this time and let's go over the recipe one more time, make sure this is what we really want to do. There's nothing like having, 20 people here and then, because this has happened before. And then they're like, oh, we only added that many hops, like, and I'm like, well, I sent the recipe out to you guys like 3 months ago and we decided to do this. So, I think it's just, we like to be prepared and make sure everybody's on the same page. And I think the more people you have as part of a collaboration involved, it gets a little more tricky and difficult. So it's always nice to, just kind of have like a couple people involved, like maybe 1 or 2 people from each part of the collab, maybe, makes it a little easier.
Now, Josh, let's talk a little bit about like the taproom side of things. You do this collab, say with like local Pink Boot Society, and you brew it. Everyone involved is really excited about it. But then you have your taproom staff who's selling the beer. How are you educating them on what the collab stands for and the purpose, and how are they conveying that information to the guests across the bar?
Yeah, so we always try to have our staff, when they come in each day, if there's something new on tap, number one, I leave them some notes. We have like a Google Sheets or whatever that has like each beer we do. We put like a special part there if it's like for them to tell people like, oh, like this is our new beer, $1 from each one of these pours goes back towards Pink Boots, has a taste description and everything like that. And we really try to get them to promote that and educate people also on like what Pink Boots is. Cause like you could tell them, oh, it's a Pink Boots beer and be like, okay, yeah, whatever, like they don't know what that stands for. So, and that goes back to us, like enrolling all of our employees here, all of our female staff, they all joined Pink Boots, and we paid for them to do that. And I think that also goes into the collaboration and helps us to, better promote our brand with their brand. So yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, we use Slack anytime we're doing a collaboration, I'll just put everything out there on Slack. So, hey, here's what, take Pink Boots, for example, here's what Pink Boots is, here's what the recipe, here's the hops, here's the malts, here's, kind of everything that leads into that collaboration. If it's with another brewery, then I'll post a link and a quick description of the brewery. So Slack is really helpful for us in that regard. And I'm putting all of the notes in there. So kind of like Josh, what you're saying, but just a different format. But yeah, I think it's super helpful to have something where people can do, like, they can click on all of those links and they can be like, oh yeah, got it. This is what this brewery is. So, and then just kind of making sure that they are able to talk about that beer. So we have a pre-shift meeting before every shift. And so, okay, here's what this beer is about. So they're getting it in multiple ways. They're kind of able to read things on their own time, but then we're also talking about it. And when we're talking about the beer, I just have them taste the beer as well. So they're like, oh yeah, I do get dragon fruit. Not that that's a very strong flavor, but just ways that they're able to, interact with that beer for people.
And William, you're in a unique position, so I'd love to hear kind of how you lean into the educational side of things.
Well, we usually spend a lot of time at the brewery, so we educate the staff, number one, on who we are. And also because I've gone into places where we have a collab beer on tap, it's not advertised as a collab beer, and the staff doesn't know. So we've run into those situations of where we've had to educate everybody that's there on what it is. And, it could be a brew pub, it could be a brewery with a kitchen, sort of. You have the whole staff that we have gone out and just given an overview over who we are, just so they understand that the collab and why it's happened and why it's helpful for them to also push the product. And that's probably how we best handled it. Some places we've known the people for years, both we often drink wherever we collab. So people kind of know us, and we look at that as part of the relationship. I don't want to show up one day or 2 days and, we make the beer and then we release it and that's it. We like the people who we collab with. And so we sort of use that as an opportunity to keep the staff updated. I make them all follow us on social media, things like that. Because sometimes staff, as Josh mentioned with like Pink Boots, if people don't know what it is, the easiest way to get a quick snapshot is Instagram. So, hey, if you want to learn more, here's their social media tag, check them out. And they can be more supportive. But that's usually it. And then when you're attached to an issue like with the National Black Brewers Association that's come up, people have no idea what it is. So, using in your front of house staff is the front line. They can slow it down or speed it up. Beer needs to get out of that inventory, and spending time educating them helps that happen.
Cool. Thanks, William. And speaking of the National Black Brewers Association, we're really excited at CBP to have Kevin Asado give the 2024 State of the Black Brewer, leveraging diversity as a source for economic good at our workshop in San Diego. So pumped to collab with them in person and spend some time together. Now,
Oh, that'd be awesome.
it's going to be fun, and you're collabing with some friends out there in Sacramento, so maybe you need to come out and hang out with us in San Diego and just a few run. But anyway, so we talk a lot about collabs that start in the brew house, but collabs are more than just brewers getting together making a beer. Do you all have any collabs that started outside of the brew house? Maybe someone in marketing had an idea, someone in front of a house had an idea. They don't even have to involve brewing the beer. I'd love to hear some examples we haven't talked about of collabs that started outside of a focus on a beer.
I don't know if this counts as a collab or not, but we actually had started out next door at Sanctuary Tacos. They have like a foosball league. They play like every Monday, and they're super intense. These guys are like really good. And I'm like, how can you be that good at foosball? Anyway, I was talking to one of the guys who helps run it, and he's a teacher at Maury High School here. And he was like, look, man, we do this thing with the kids. It's like called a summer sunrise. And I guess like the seniors, they get up early and they want to give them a spot to come and hang out. And we were like, well, this is kind of weird because we're a brewery. And so, but we have like 2.5 acres out back. And so again, we donated the space. We didn't like open the doors or anything, but we have like a foosball table, and we have like a huge, backyard for them to play cornhole. And we put all of our like horseshoes and all the games out for them. I fully didn't expect really to get anything back from this. They were like, oh, we'll put your banner up on the tennis court. Can we just take Brewing off of it? And I'm like, well, people are still going to know what Afterglow is, but it's fine. We just did it to be cool, and help out. Well, what was really cool about that is the next week, about 80 teachers asked if they could do a private party here. And so we opened early for them. We were actually collabing with Bold Mariner that day, and I totally forgot that they were coming. So it was mass chaos here, but we had like 80 teachers here, and we made a lot of money that day because we did something like that for them. So I would say it was, kind of like a collab with that school that we didn't anticipate it, like really the reward from doing that. But now I'm going to do that with like anybody that wants to use our space. That cost us nothing. And, they were very appreciative that we did that. So they brought their whole staff out, that could drink, and did that another day. So just an idea.
I love that. Anyone else have any collabs that started outside of the brew house?
Andrew, I'm surprised you haven't mentioned the safe bars.
I'll let you take the lead on that one. I posted about it yesterday.
I mean, it's a couple years old. Well, it's more than a couple years old now, but Andrew and I collaborated out of, really just like shared values and recognizing a need for change in the industry. So we came together, myself and Andrew and, Betsy from Lady Justice and the safebars.org folks. Also our friend Dana, who's like amazing at organizing collaborative work. And she's spoken at CBP events before. She's fantastic, but, I think it started with like, okay, how can we raise awareness for the fact that harassment and abuse is an issue in the industry, but we don't necessarily want it to be around a beer. We want it to be like, longer than that, or like, we don't want to collect charitable donations, but how can we have it be like awareness and like a movement? So Dana helped us sort it all out, but really it was not centered around a beer. There was a beer that you could brew as an option if you wanted to like send some funds, to safe bars and, things like that, or to pay for your own training with them, which was the idea. But we had a lot of folks sign up, and it was, I don't know. I think honestly, we would have been lost without Dana. Dana's so good at like scope and time.
And the organization and keeping us all in one place.
Yeah. And just making sure that we really knew like, okay, this is the one thing that we're trying to get across. So don't get distracted by a whole bunch of other stuff, but this is like the one centralized message and what we're trying to accomplish. So I think that's important. To go off of that too, like stuff that I've done with my clients, a lot of it has been community related. So like a community organization is, either important to like one of the owners or the staff members or something like that. Lots of like school give back, like where it's just a normal business night, but you like contribute like a portion of sales, all that kind of stuff. And then what it ends up doing is you get more business on like a typically slow night. You give back to that community organization that's important to you anyways. And then it fosters like additional business going forward, because then those people have a relationship with your brand or your tap room that they might have not had before. So like what Josh was saying, it sort of like perpetuates, into the future, which is a really cool thing to see happen.
Yeah, definitely. It was a pleasure to work with that whole Safe Bars Pack team. We'll drop the link in here for sure. Now, I've got one final question. We've talked like big picture about all these collabs, the process you go into determining them, the goals, staying organized. But at the end of the day, when you have these collabs, I want to talk about your team. What's the impact when your team itself has strong collaboration? How does that help your business see greater success?
Well, for us, it is, we feel pumped at the end. So it's like, hey, number one, we went through this process with another entity, whether it's a brewery or other organization. And, when you deliver something that's of high quality, that's well received, that has another conversation of, hey, this was kind of cool, maybe we should do it again. It's that really good feeling of accomplishment. We have not gone through a collab where we haven't felt that way. There were things we learned both sides as a part of that process, but internally we do an autopsy of it. We share what we felt were the strong points and what points needed some work or needed to go, and we feel better positioned to do it better the next time.
Josh, for example, go ahead, Jessa.
No, I was just going to say, I think for our team, there's a thing that we talk about in kind of our management team about beer blindness, or like brewery blindness, where you just get kind of you start to prefer just your own beer because that's what you're drinking, right? And then it's hard to see outside of that. So when we do a strong collaboration with another brewery, I think two things happen. First, it gets us all out of the beer that we normally drink. And so we're potentially using different yeasts. We're using different hops, where it's different voices that are in there. And so that diversity really helps with the beer blindness, just with our taste, right? So that's one thing. And then second thing, especially for the front of house staff, who's maybe not necessarily the most, they're excited about beer, but some people, I've just hired for, and they're like, I like beer, but I'm not really familiar with all of the different like styles and breweries. And so it's introducing our staff to another piece of the industry where they're like, oh my gosh, this beer is awesome. And now they want to go try the other stuff from that other brewery. So it's kind of reintroducing us to new tastes, but it's also introducing us to new breweries and new people. So they get excited about that. So I think just kind of stoking the excitement for the team, just keeping it fresh, where it's not like, yeah, these are the 8 beers that we always have on and we never change anything. So it's kind of keeping that fresh and exciting. So
good point there. Josh, anything you'd like to add to this one?
Yeah, I think just working with a lot of different breweries, as far as the ideas, like you had said, for people they have all kinds of cool ideas that I may not think of, or different beers. I think with Bold Mariner, when we did that one, we aren't well known for making a Hefeweizen or a wheat style. We'll have one every once in a while, and people always ask for it, and we only have 5 tanks, so it's hard for us sometimes to really dedicate a tank to something that we aren't sure how it's going to sell, or especially we've been about 5 months without a stout right now, which has been crazy. We were always doing it on nitro, and we just converted the nitro tap back to CO2. But it's one of those things where we have to look at what's selling, and it's like seltzers, pilsners, lagers, IPAs, and now we have this sour that's doing amazing. So then when you look at that, it's hard sometimes for us to, really do certain styles. But having the option to collab with someone, and we know it's going to turn out well because it's something that may be a strong suit for them, but we aren't as confident in that. That's always a, good reason for us to try and do that.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Well, I appreciate the 4 of your insight over these 2 hours we've dove into the topic of collaboration. I really, really do appreciate the extra effort and insight on this one. So as we sign off, I'd love for you to just share how people can follow you. If they want to get a hold of you with any questions, how can they do so? And William, give us the info.
You can find us at Khonso Brewing on all the social media platforms. I am the guy, so if you ask a question, you get me. So yeah, that's the best way to reach us. Yeah.
And if you do a collab with William, make sure you tag him. That's the only thing I got to add to that.
I'll tag everybody.
You can tag me too. Jessa?
Okay. You can find us at Icicle Brewing on all of the social medias. If you want to reach out to us about Icicle Brewing, you can do that Instagram, or you can do info@iciclebrewing.com. Yeah, we can chat more about collaboration or really anything under the sun.
Awesome. See you soon, Jessa and Julie.
Yeah.
Almost every social media channel, probably at Not Your Hobby Marketing, except for Twitter. And I'm still mad that somebody took my handle. I don't know who has it. You don't have the same thing as me. I don't know why you needed at Not Your Hobby Marketing. But, it's Not Your Hobby MS, X or whatever it's called now. And then you can just find me on the website. It's kind of like William, like I am the company is me. So hobbymarketing.com. You're going to reach me or my partner because it's just us. So, yeah.
Love it. Well, thanks, Julie. And take us home, Josh.
Yeah, you can find us between 2 barrels, right, Andrew? And afterglowbrewing.com. Our Instagram is Afterglow Brewing, and Facebook as well. And we're here in Norfolk, Virginia.
Well, everyone, thanks for the conversation. Hope you found some value in listening, and we'll see you soon.